We'll have a few more positive takeaways. We'll continue to talk about who stood out and give out maybe some week 1 awards coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So the Oklahoma Sooners had some really, really positive performances in week 1. We talked about Grayson Halton. Who else stood out on defense to you, Jay?
On the defensive side, I think one that really deserves a lot of credit, Kobe McKinzie. And I say that because him and Kip did a fantastic job running that defense. My favorite thing in the game was I was watching the linebackers, and you watch Kobe McKinzie walk up, smack Dejon Terry on the behind, and he shifted over, basically moving him into the proper gaps for the play. And then we went out there and got like a tackle for the loss. It was awesome. 9 tackles for the loss in the game. Those linebackers got command of this defense. They understand their assignments. They know exactly where to go. We are in great hands if Stutsman cannot play in the game. We don't have to be concerned about, like we did when we had to play against Kansas and Oklahoma State, where Stutsman had to sit out a few quarters. Those linebackers know what to do, know where everybody needs to be, and they're shifting everyone in the proper directions or the proper gaps. If they need to make play adjustments, Kobe McKinzie was on it. That's probably one player that was huge to me outside of a Robert Spears Jennings, who not only forced a fumble, recovered one.
Yeah, I really liked what Kobe McKinzie did. I liked the combination of Kobe and Danny Stutsman, 2 big linebackers that gives you a lot of physicality on the inside. So that's going to be really, really intriguing to watch the rest of the year. I thought Kip was really good as well. Lewis Carter stood out whenever he got on the field. He looked like a college football linebacker. All the praise that Brent Venables has been thrown on that dude since he's shown up on campus is warranted. That kid's going to be really, really good when his time comes. I don't think we've talked enough about Jackson Arnold, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time here. Jackson Arnold was really good. Yep. The 17 for 25, you want to talk about the yardage totals, it's fine. His QBR wasn't great, but his NFL rating was pretty good, 120s. If you look at his adjusted completion percentage, which Pro Football Focus likes to break down, take away the throwaways and the drops, and he completed 83.3% of his passes. That's pretty solid, right? Again, they did not ask Jackson Arnold to sling it around. They didn't ask him to throw down the field a whole lot. They didn't ask him to put it in dangerous spots. I thought he was on target. I don't think there was really a ball that was a bad ball that he threw. Yeah. There was one that was like just out of the fingertips of Brennan Thompson, but he got his fingertips on it. And that's the only one that I really have like a question mark next to as far as the throw. The ball he threw to JJ Hester was like a beautiful dime. He just like put it in the bucket twice, and my man had a hard time with it. And so I thought he was in control of the offense. I thought he was in command, and he was putting his ball on target.
Yeah, no, I think I saw there was also one other play. He threw the ball behind like Bauer Sharp or something on a route. And I mean, again, that's just being nitpicky.
It's going to happen
when it comes to this game.
Throws.
Right. There was 4 drop passes in the game. You get those 4 drops that were right in their hands. That puts you at 21 out of 25, and no one's saying a word, right? But at the same time, he got 4 touchdowns. Rushing wise, we had 6.1 yards per carry, and yeah, it was not very impressive, but we also played a lot of people in the run game, and you could tell that the most annoying part about the offense was that they were just testing out so many different scripted things, and they probably didn't even go all the way deep into whatever the script they wanted to run because we didn't even test out the deep ball. Now, as long as we got the run game going, the opportunity to leverage play action and go deep will be there. And I sense against Houston we'll get that, right? I don't think Houston's defensive line is any good. They just struggled against UNLV, so we'll talk more about them later this week. So honestly, this offense should see more. We should see more production. And I think the one thing we did get, and the one thing that really jumped out and stood out to me is that I think Jovantae Barnes is back to the Florida State Jovantae Barnes.
Yep.
He didn't look like this last season at the beginning of the year, even when he was recovering and they thought he was ready. Then eventually they just pulled him out. No, he looked like him because he was breaking tackles. He's cutting through holes. He's picking up big yards. He had, 6 yards per carry on his 5 carries in the game. He looked right. And then I'm terrified at the fact that we're going to start getting the Taylor Tatum chance probably very soon. because he's real. Sam Franklin was solid, but Taylor Tatum's real. We got 4 running backs, and honestly, I'm hoping next week that we play Caleb Hicks just so we can see what he is, because I'm in fear that he's most likely going to have to transfer.
Yeah, it's crazy that you're going to have to figure out a way to get 4 running backs the ball. And maybe 5 if Caleb Hicks shows out. Like, you're going to have to find enough snaps for all these guys. And I'm not down on Gavin Sawchuk. I think he's going to have better games than what he had this last week. I thought his 4th down run was very tough and physical, and he got the yardage that they needed to get. I really liked seeing that out of Gavin Sawchuk. But you're right on the money with Jovantae Barnes. He looked fresh. He looked crisp. He looked like he had burst. He was seeing it quick and getting downhill quick. And I really, really liked that about him. Sam Franklin, same. Whenever they were running between the tackles with Sam Franklin is honestly at times when the running game looked its most consistent. So that was encouraging. And then, the Taylor Tatum thing, you're going to have to get him on the football field. He's only been on campus for a few months, and he's already looking like an incredibly dynamic player, someone you're going to have to get touches to. It's fun to see that. Special teams, Tyler Keltner, we got a kicker, 50-yarder, hit a couple others, 3 for 3, made all of his extra points. The punting game looked good. The return game, I was not scared for them to return a punt. I felt comfortable whenever the punt was being launched that it was going to be okay. So that's an encouraging sign at least.
We made a 50, a 42, and a 24-yard field goal. John, we made a 50-yard field goal, and it looked like it could have gone an extra 10 yards. Look, I like to reserve judgment on kickers until we get into a situation where there's true pressure.
Right.
But it did still feel like there was pressure there because of the kicking woes we had last season in critical moments. So Keltner walked out there. Good thing is, y'all don't need to know his name. Y'all just need to know that we got somebody that can kick the ball and seems comfortable doing it. The question's going to be now, how does he perform if there's a pressure situation? And so hopefully he doesn't see a pressure situation until we travel to Auburn. Hopefully we make it happen in the 4 games up before that. But if not, I anticipate him being able to perform, especially against Tennessee when they come to the crib. That's going to be the one game, if any of them, that's most likely going to be one of those moments where you're going to have to leverage your kicker in a late second quarter play before halftime or something like that. I don't want it to be a close game, but again, I don't want him to have to kick until we're hitting the road.
All right, let's hand out a few awards real quick before we get out of here on today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Offensive player of the game for you, Jay.
Offensive player of the game's got to go to Deon Burks, right? 3 touchdowns, 5. Deon Burks his route running was crisp. He was everywhere that he needed to be for Jackson Arnold, and it looks like the relationship is tight. He's definitely my offensive MVP.
Yeah, no disagreement there. You only go with one guy when he scores 3 touchdowns in his debut. First time that's ever happened at Oklahoma or 3 receiving touchdowns. First time that's ever happened. You got to give it to the guy. Defensive player of the game for you, Jay.
Defensive player of the game, I'm going to give it to Robert Spears Jennings. He forced a fumble and he recovered a fumble. He was everywhere, right? It was really good to see him being comfortable with the quote-unquote reserve role. But you can tell that Zach Alley likes using at least 3 safeties and rotating a lot. Him, Peyton Bowen, and Billy, they had a field day. But I give it to Robert Spears Jennings. I like the fact that he was able to force a fumble and he recovered one.
Yeah, Grayson Halton for me, another 2022 signee, another 4-star prospect. Dude was just all over the place. Really, really exciting to see where he goes from here. Robert Spears Jennings was Oklahoma's highest graded defender, according to Pro Football Focus. Grayson Halton, number 2. And then special teams, is it the kicker?
Jaron Kanik for me. That return touchdown was awesome. It just was great. Like the awareness to grab it and go. Like he immediately grabbed it and picked up and he knew that he needed to run that in for a touchdown just so that he can make me look good because the defense did outscore Temple, like I said they would.
Yeah. Well, and hey, he was getting back to his Hayes days running the football there, so he looked really comfortable doing that. Give a little bit of an assist to Lewis Carter for forcing the fumble on the special teams play as well. It's great to see some of your impactful players, not just for this year, but for the future, getting some significant snaps on special teams and making an impact. as well. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Go check us out over on the socials, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, at Locked On Sooners. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. We'll be back next time. We'll continue to talk more about the Temple win. We'll break down what's going on at wide receiver with no Jalil Farouk and start getting ready for Houston. Recap the weekend that was in college football coming up on our next episode of Locked On Sooners. So again, stay tuned, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. But for Jay Smith, I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.